In the IEA report, what is the distinction that the Prime Minister and the leader of Labor need to know? What do they need to know right now from IEA?
I think one thing they need to know is that we simply haven't been putting enough capital into the energy sector in recent years. And that's true whether you look at it from the perspective of energy transitions. So we haven't been investing enough in clean. And then partially because we haven't done that, that means that the amount of money going into the traditional sector, so oil and gas, has also been not enough to avoid the sort of volatility that we're seeing today.
Tim, I've got a really basic question. Has Russian oil actually been taken off the market or just re-diverted through China, through India and the refineries there, and then sold back to the West?
So there is clearly some impacts on Russia already of the measures that are in place. But if you look at the data for exports, there hasn't been a huge amount of change since the invasion in February. And so there is that evidence of a reorientation rather than a reduction when it comes to Russian flows into international markets.
So who's pocketing the difference? I mean, if you're dealing with the gas and the crude that's being sold at a discount from Russia, and then it's being sold at anything but a discount everywhere else within the developed world, who's getting that delta?
I mean, it's an unusually profitable moment to be in the refining business right now. I mean, refining margins are very high, and refining margins are particularly high if your input crude is heavily discounted Russian crude.
Well, but quickly here, Tim, there is this allegation that some people have that actually India and refineries there are benefiting on all sides, and a lot of the gasoline and the refined goods the United States and other nations in the developed world are importing are actually Russian crude that just have been funneled into a form that they can use. Is that accurate?
I think it's very difficult to tell the provenance of the molecules that come out of a refinery. There's no way to distinguish the outputs of a refinery based on the normally based on the origins of the crude. So I think that's a very difficult question to answer directly.
Okay, Tim, well, you're an economist, and as the Biden administration pushes Congress to enact a pause on the gasoline tax here in America to provide some relief at the pump, will that actually work as intended, even if it got through Congress?
I mean, we're very focused on the underlying dynamics. And the fact is that oil and gas upstream investment has come down by half since 2014. And that's added to some of the pressures that we see on markets today. So what we're focused on is which way do we get out of today's crisis? And essentially there's two baskets of options. One is around doubling down on fossil fuels, and the other one is investing in new areas of the energy economy. And certainly from an IEA perspective, we're very keen that the upswing that we've seen in clean energy investment in 2022, we're keen to see that gain further momentum, because we think that's the only lasting way out of the crisis that we're having today.
Well, and Tim, of course, by nature, it is a transition. We don't just arrive at a moment in which we are entirely reliant on clean energy. You still need fossil fuels there as a backstop, because many of these clean energy sources are intermittent by nature. The sun doesn't always shine. The wind isn't always blowing. How do both of these things play together where we can't wean ourselves off of fossil fuels? You can't get to green energy at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that we try and avoid saying, is that there's a very sort of binary, clean, dirty element. You just need to scale up one and reduce the other. There is this sort of coexistence of energy systems for many, many years to come. And you need to make sure that all parts of that system are functioning in a way that allows us to have affordable, secure energy. So I very much agree. You know, we need to focus also on all of the energy services, the reliability that you can still get from traditional forms of supply.
Tim Gould, the thickness of the IEA effort here, I think of Adam Szymanski's work over the years, and then I look at Christian Malik and J.P. Morgan, where in 100 pages they say the foundation of all of this is population growth in emerging markets. You own this at IEA. You've had the courage to go beyond the developed countries and look at emerging markets as well. Is the case for higher oil prices simply a burgeoning population in emerging markets?
I think it's more than that. It's about the economic growth, it's the rising incomes, it's the aspirations that many people in emerging markets and developing economies have for the lifestyles that we have in many advanced economies. And that is going to drive developments in the energy sector for many years to come. But the question is, what sort of model are these countries going to be pursuing? Is it the same one? Is it the same path that we've trodden all these years? Or is there a new lower emissions path that is now available because of some of the increasingly accessible and affordable clean technologies that are on the market?